Welcome to episode number 336 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on January 30, 2021. A lot of things to talk about this week, including Birdwatch, Made for TV, Super Bowl ins and outs, LinkedIn and TikTok education, gun safety PSA, sleeves up, Google My Business updates, YouTube hashtags, LinkedIn controls, TikTok Q, Wokeness, and Michael Solomon, who's a professor of marketing at St. Joseph's College and has written 5 books on marketing, including his most recent one, The New Chameleons, How to Connect with Consumers Who Defy Categorization, will be our first non-host guest next week when BL does the interview. So you want to tune in next week for that interview. But let's get on with the best story of the week. BL, you have those honors. What do you got?
Well, I had this in the worst, but then I changed my mind and I put it in the best. But I'm of two minds about it. But what happened was on Tuesday, Twitter announced Birdwatch, which is a community-driven approach to addressing misleading information. And here's why it was almost in worse. Anybody can join. Hey, what can go wrong? But the blog, Twitter's blog, announced that they said, we believe a transparent community-driven approach to identifying misleading information and elevating helpful context can help us all create a better informed world. That was like their launch. So you can identify information in tweets that you think is misleading, and you can write notes and add information that is informative context. And initially the content's only going to be on a separate Birdwatch site because it's a pilot. And people can rate the notes and add their own. So the notes can be used to correct, to specify, or add helpful context to help people better understand the information. You're shaking your head, you know what the problems could be. So eventually the content will be added to tweets as context when there's consensus from a broad and diverse set of contributors. That's what Twitter said, whatever that means. So once you join Birdwatch, you see this message. It says, we're only just starting to test Birdwatch out. So some notes may be helpful and others not so much. Birdwatch participants can separate high quality notes from the rest by rating them, which will help us to build a better Birdwatch. So these notes being intentionally kept separate from Twitter for now, are part of a test that they hope will produce content that they can regulate in some way. And notes will not have an effect on the way people see tweets or right now, but Kevin Coleman, who's the vice president of product on Twitter, said they know the project will have challenges, I'll say, and will be messy at times, but they're committed to opening the pilot to the public and to work on it together. So among the challenges, obviously, avoiding a simple majority or bias domination, as well as building up resistance to manipulation in hopes of diminishing the dangers. Twitter already started to include experts, social sciences, and academic approaches to the development process. And so to participate, you just go and sign up. The link will be there, and just select contribute to Birdwatch. And then there's an options menu on a tweet, and you acknowledge and agree to adhere to the values. And then you follow prompts and questions on screen, and you can submit a note, or you can just kind of read the other ones. And added notes can be deleted at any time. So this is like Wikipedia in a way, but Twitter is so vast and Twitter is so polarized that this may or may not work. I mean, I understand the need for some type of tempering of content. I understand that very well, but how you're going to keep this from becoming, biased, political, manipulated, I don't know. I hope they've figured that out. If they have, this is a good thing. If they haven't, this should be in the worst.
Well, I was going to say before you kind kind of stomped on my line. I was going to say, this is what we've been talking about for years as part of the solution is Wikipedia. And this is basically Wikipedia for Twitter. And I mean, Wikipedia is vast and polarized as well, and it still works. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope for this because it seems like
I do too. And I joined it, and I haven't written any notes yet. I've just read the few that I've seen, but so far so good. And this week I had a couple of tweets that went kind of crazy, like that have had more than 50,000 views and hundreds of retweets and comments. And, I don't know how those will end up in Birdwatch. I mean, it's an interesting and necessary experiment, and hopefully it'll work.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the genius of the Wikipedia system is that the edits are archived. So there's a history of the changes of the document. So you can see, you can get at the nub of what's going on if you want to dig into that, which a lot of people won't. So that's the other aspect of this. But better that than nothing.
Exactly. And it's an attempt, and it's a well-intentioned intent.
Yeah. So we have a break this week. I don't have any football to watch. I don't have I don't have a team to root for necessarily in this year's Super Bowl. But I do have someone to root for, and I probably doesn't need any rooting because Amanda Gorman, the young poet who read that amazing The Hill We Climb poem for the inauguration, is going to read a poem at the Super Bowl during the Super Bowl.
Isn't that amazing?
Insane! That is insane. So this is from BuzzFeed Salvador Hernandez, who reports, Amanda Gorman, she's going to be basically the first Super Bowl poet laureate. Hopefully there will be many more, but she is going to recite a new poem before the official coin toss to recognize an educator, a nurse, and a veteran for helping their communities during the pandemic. The poem will be broadcast nationally on CBS, and the new poem will honor Tremaine Davis, who's an educator who worked to secure electronic equipment for students, Susie Dorner, who's an ICU nurse in Tampa, and James Martin, who's a Marine veteran who worked to support fellow vets and high school athletes. It's just stunning to me that a poet would be reading a poem during the Super Bowl, before the Super Bowl. And the NFL, I mean, half of their fans, or probably more than half their fans, are
never heard a poem.
Well, no, I mean, come on, be fair. The poetry is not their first choice of reading, I would argue. It's not most people's first choice of reading, so there's that. But there's a lot of all the sports, it's probably the most conservative. And so choosing Amanda Gorman, who spoke at Biden's inauguration, I think is a fairly courageous choice by the NFL. Again, who's going to criticize? Oh, I'm sure people will. A poem honoring these people, so that's kind of safe. But oh my God, I never would have seen the day when a poet would be reading a poem at the Super Bowl.
I can't wait. I mean, she's so spectacular.
Yeah.
And, apparently she's signed with a modeling agency. Yeah. She has 2 books that are already bestsellers. One's a children's book, one's for adults. I mean, she's not just a poet, she's a performer. And, it doesn't hurt that she's beautiful. She's a Harvard graduate. I mean, she's got it all, this one. And, her poem at the inauguration was mind-blowing. I mean,
I would say
the
only thing I would flip around in what you said is she's not just a performer, she's a poet.
Well, but there's
a higher level of talent for poetry than there is.
I agree, but she's a wonderful presenter. Let's put it that way.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about the Super Bowl, we're not going to see Clydesdales at the Super Bowl this year. For the first time in 37 years, Budweiser's not advertising on the Super Bowl. Instead, they are donating $1 million and their airtime to the Ad Council and COVID COVID Collaborative's COVID-19 Vaccine Education Initiative. So Monica Rostigi, who's vice president of marketing at Budweiser, said, like everyone else, we're eager to get people back together, reopen restaurants and bars, and be able to gather to cheers with friends and family. And to do this and to bring consumers back into neighborhood bars and restaurants that were hit exceptionally hard by the pandemic, we're stepping up to support critical awareness of the COVID-19 vaccine. And that's why Budweiser's joined together with their partner, the Ad Council. So they tweeted that the Clydesdales may not be in our commercial, but they'll be making an appearance in a new way. Stay tuned on our social channels on Super Bowl Sunday. So Clydesdales are going to show up on social media. And Coca-Cola and Avocados of Mexico also announced that they won't advertise, and other brands are expected to change their messages to focus on COVID vaccine awareness and social issues. Very unusual for brands this year because they don't know whether people want to laugh or they want to be serious. It's really hard. It's a hard call for any brand to know how to play this. And I think that what Budweiser's doing is pretty admirable.
Yeah, it's going to be a different Super Bowl. I mean, everything is obviously different due to COVID and the reaction to 2020. And advertisers are often that's part of their considerations for advertising the Super Bowl. So it will be interesting. I think more than many years past, I will be interested to watch the commercials. To just see how they approach it. But the Super Bowl is one of the very few events that has a massive live audience anymore. We saw the previous one was the inauguration, so that people have a mass audience for the inauguration, and usually it's just the swearing in that they watch. But this year, as everything is different because of the pandemic. So there's an interesting article on Axios by Sarah Fisher and Neil Rothschild about making the most of made for TV moments to turn things to take advantage of that massive audience in order to drive viral engagement online. So they talk about Biden's inauguration, which was produced to create several social viral moments, similar to what they did during the DNC. The Democrats did during the DNC when they went all around the country and had people representing from every 50 state talk.
That was spectacular.
That was. But Amanda Gorman obviously was one of the she went viral. That was her book, yet to be released book, shot to the top of Amazon and videos everywhere of her amazing poem. There was the choice of the Capitol Police officer Eugene Goodman, who led the rioters away from the Senate chamber, and he escorted Kamala Harris before she was sworn as vice president. That got a lot of attention. And there was the fireworks display with Katy Perry singing. There was Lady Gaga singing the Star Spangled Banner and turning to the flag and saying, and the flag was still there. That got me. But it occurs to me, I mean, this is a great article, but it occurs to me that this inaugural was the first that went beyond the swearing in to become like a whole day event that engaged the entire country. Usually the swearing in is the only thing that people watch, and then there's DC parties, everybody, for all the political insiders, and none of us get to do any of that.
We usually get to see them dancing.
Yeah, we get to see a little, 5-second clip of the new president dancing, but this was really engaging for the entire country, the entire nation, for the whole day of the celebration, and I thought it was really smart, given that Biden ran on that message of unity and everything. So,
and everybody felt better the next day. I mean, remarkably, everyone I talked to said they just felt better. They felt lighter. They felt like things were going to be okay. It was such a positive thing. But yeah, whoever is doing their production, and I need to learn more about that, is doing a fabulous job from the get-go. So switching gears completely, LinkedIn is launching a series of free ad classes. It's an all new on-demand learning center for advertising. It's full of a lot of free resources. It's called LinkedIn Marketing Labs, and this is from a search engine journal and LinkedIn business blog from Matt Southern and Renee Lowe. And LinkedIn it's a new on-demand learning center where you can access free resources to learn all about how to advertise. And it's launching with 6 courses and best practices, and they're all curated by LinkedIn's in-house experts. I don't know who that would be exactly, but course material ranges from basic to intermediate, and they're all laid out in step-by-step learning. The courses can all be accessed from LinkedIn Learning Labs, and when you visit for the first time, they attempt to tailor a learning path for you based on your industry and your title in your job. So interesting that they're doing that.
Very good.
Every platform should do that.
Yeah, a lot of platforms. I mean, the social platforms are. Hootsuite has an academy. Facebook has Blueprint. That Google has a
and I have another one for us later on.
Very good. So yeah. I got a LinkedIn new features of LinkedIn. This is from LinkedIn's own Liz Lee in a blog post. There are new controls you can use for your comments. The blog post starts off first though by talking about how your content is distributed on LinkedIn. It's very vague, as they're not going to give tippity hands to algorithmic stuff, but I thought it was interesting to say if you want your content to be visible beyond your connections, that it's about relevance, and that makes a lot of sense, right? So relevance in this blog post, they cite conversations that are timely, authentic, reflect real life conversations in the workplace, or deeply affect our workplace experiences. So things like adjusting to work from home, office safety, So that kind of stuff it makes sense, but this is the first time I've seen anybody from LinkedIn actually talk about it that way. So for the post controls, you can now, when you do a post on LinkedIn, you can set your post to either be visible to anyone, to be visible to connections only, to be visible to members of a group you're a part of, or to be visible to people who are attending the same event. So if you've said you're going to attend on an event post. And then you can also control who can comment on your post. So you can set it to anyone, you can set it to connections only, or you can set it to no one, but you can also change after the fact those settings. So if you set it to everyone and all of a sudden you're getting a bunch of stuff from people you don't know and you don't want, you can set it to connections only after you've posted. And then there's newsfeed controls. So when you're going through your news feed and you come across something that you don't want, you can click on the 3 dots in the post and either mute or unfollow the individual poster. You can choose, I don't want to see this, or if it's obnoxious or whatever, potentially violates LinkedIn's terms of use, you can report the post. But these are just some more fine-grained controls that LinkedIn has just rolled out.
That sounds worthwhile to me. I think it will make the platform better. But okay, so this again, completely changing topics here. But and there's an upbeat Sleeves Up Nola campaign that uses local personalities and the Mardi Gras dance culture to encourage citizens to get a COVID vaccine. And obviously the Mardi Gras is canceled this year due to COVID, as it was last year. So the ad, which is one of numerous efforts around the country to persuade people to get a vaccine, a COVID shot, but it's got a real homegrown approach, and it uses neighborhood personas, and it invokes the local culture, and it has this Laissez les bon temps rouler, let the good times roll. And it has the dance moves and the costumes, and that makes it really effective. And it addresses vaccine hesitance in a really pleasant way. So since the summer, public health officials and politicians repeatedly are calling for national pro-vaccination campaigns. And I would guess the Biden administration will come up with one, but so far there's been no meaningful federal campaign. So local officials have started to do their own. So instead of focusing on the miseries brought on by the pandemic, they decided to emphasize an inviting tone. So they studied public health messaging, and they found that the best way is to be upbeat. And so make the behaviors that you're promoting easy, fun, and popular. I don't know about fun, but anyway, participants in the video say things like, "I'm getting the vaccine to continue my culture." Another one says, "So I can dance another day." And then the third one says, "So I don't lose another brother." And all the while they're dancing in these wild Mardi Gras costumes. So there's a link to it in the show notes, and it's really nicely done. And apparently they shot it in about an hour. So, but it came together. It works.
Very cool. I did see Jen Psaki, the White House communications director,
I
who's
love
holding
her.
daily briefing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She did mention in one of her briefings that the administration is going to put a lot of money behind PSAs for getting vaccinated, et cetera. So that should be coming. I will.
I try to listen to her. She's really just amazing.
She is. I think she is, but it could just be the contrast because we haven't had daily briefings ever in the past 4 years, and we haven't had a serious, thoughtful,
well-informed
and factual press secretary in the past 4 years. So I could just be culture shock. I'll take your positive PSA, BL, and match you a contrasting one. This is from Adweek's David Greiner, who reports on a gun safety PSA called "The Best Unbox Ever" with Caden. And you've seen the unboxing videos with kids opening up their toys and going through, this is what it does, and playing with it and all that stuff. It's taking that format and using a fictional 8-year-old named Caden who unboxes his parents' unsecured handgun. So it shows Caden showing off the gun at every angle, looking down the barrel of the gun, putting his fingertip over the muzzle, playing with the trigger, and then you quickly realize that the magazine falls out and there's bullets spraying over the table. You realize it's the gun is loaded. Yeah. Wow. So this is a PSA for the states united to prevent gun violence, and it aims to highlight the fact that 4.6 million children live in homes with unlocked guns. We'll embed the PSA on the show notes for everybody to see, but it's pretty good. Well done.
Wow. Greiner just got a promotion. He's now international editor of Adweek, which well-deserved. I mean, he does such good stuff. So back to learning, TikTok has introduced an online hub for TikTok. It's called the TikTok Creator Portal. It's like a one-stop shop for educational resources for creators on the platform. So from getting started to on TikTok, there's multiple articles and lessons on how to be successful there. It includes understanding the platforms, the analytics, tips for success, how to go live, creative essentials, and lots more. And they're really well done. They really want brands to be on TikTok. And so this was a necessary move.
Very good.
But I do have another TikTok story that's not so good, but we'll get to it later.
I've got 2 new Google My Business updates. This first one is from Search Engine Lens, Barry Schwartz, who talks about the Google My Business has updated their tools for business owners to flag user reviews for removal by Google. So if there's a review that you have as a business owner, you have a problem with, a legitimate problem with, you can flag it and send it down to Google for consideration of removal. The categories are off topic. So this is a review that doesn't pertain to your business at all. Spam, reviews from a bot or a fake account or whatever, includes advertising. Conflict of interest is a review from someone, I've run across this before, someone with who's affiliated by a competing business, writing crap on your page. Profanity, bullying or harassment, discrimination or hate speech, so harmful language about an individual group based on identity, and then personal information. So if it contains personal information like an address or a phone number, you can flag that for review, for Google to review. It's just expanded categories and more explanation of what those categories are for. And then there's a post by Stephanie Newton of Bright Local, who reports that Google, and I've noticed this, Google's Google My Business posts, where you can basically a status update. You can post a message on your Google My Business account. They used to expire after 7 days, but they're no longer expiring. They're staying attached to.
I always wondered, why should they expire?
Yeah. Because other platforms have ephemeral kind of stories. I think it was Google's answer to stories, which, they don't answer very well when they're trying to. But the old posts will stay attached to the location's knowledge panel, so that the knowledge panel shows up in the sidebar when you do a search for a business.
So I don't have any more good news. Do you?
I do. These are quick. This is quick. One more. This is from Adweek's David Cohen. YouTube is rolling out, or has rolled out, dedicated pages for hashtags. So you could always use hashtags in your YouTube videos, in the description, wherever you can. But now those hashtags would, when you clicked on them, they're hyperlinks. When you clicked on them, they would take you to basically a search results page that may or may not have videos that are hashtagged that way, but are relevant according to Google. But this now is a dedicated page for hashtags. So you get to them by just clicking on a hashtag if you see one in your video, or youtube.com/hashtag/ whatever your hashtag is. So if your hashtag was digital marketing, it would be youtube.com/hashtag/digital marketing. I checked that out, just spot checked it. Most of the top videos listed in the digital marketing hashtag page had digital marketing as the first hashtag mentioned in the text. Most of them did, but not always. So as long as the hashtag's there, apparently it'll show up. But there's a bunch of other factors that determine how high you're going to rank in that. And I understand you have a pro tip for
I
YouTube
do.
hashtags.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get to the worst news, I just want to suggest that you subscribe to our newsletter, which is back with exclusive content, some moments of joy and stuff I think you like. So in order to subscribe to it, just go to beyondsocialmediashow.com/newsletter, and it'll start coming to you every week. So on to worst news, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so here's my negative TikTok story. Sadly, TikTok posts with millions of views are currently host to the baseless belief that President Trump will be sworn into office on March 4th, 2021, and he'll become the 19th president of the United States. This is from a Rolling Stone story by E.J. Dixon. QAnon believers are pushing this Trump conspiracy on TikTok with hashtags like 19th president, which has more than 235,000 views, or March 4th, which had more than 1.5 million views. And TikTok users are propagating the idea that there was an obscure 1871 act that made the United States a corporation and not a federal government, and therefore any laws passed after 1871 are moot. This is the conspiracy theory, and U.S. citizens are not subject to these laws. So the United States will revert back to its original form on March 4th, the date when the presidents were inaugurated prior to the 1933 passage of the 20th Amendment. They believe Trump will be sworn in as the 19th president. The 18th president was Ulysses S. Grant, who served between 1869 and 1877, or the time period when they believe the United States became a corporation. It comes from the principles of the sovereign citizen movement, which is a fringe movement predicated on a slew of bizarre legal interpretations and theories aimed at proving that U.S. citizens are not subject to any laws passed after 1871. What can I say?
I've been exhausted for the past 4 years. I don't need to be more exhausted trying to follow a rabbit hole to these weird conspiracy theories that have all these Byzantine twists and turns and make absolutely no sense. I'm just
mind-boggling.
Just listening to that exhausted me.
Yeah, I know it is exhausting, but it's happening and TikTok is allowing it. So now the question becomes, what is their role in stopping this? Everybody else kicks these people off. What's TikTok going to do? So, but the other point of it is that, this is like trying to stop pot from, being distributed, like, oh, it's coming in over here and we close that up and then it comes in over there, and I mean, there will be another platform. They will find another place to go. And, in my opinion, that's fine, because then at least we know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think there was an article in the New York Times that I'll probably talk about next week, citing basically there's the one of the subjects of the article was saying that what we need to do is go after not the platforms dealing with it, but going after the super spreaders of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
So identifying those, I mean, that makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. So my worst is just a too long must read article. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's from is it Mick, M-I-C? How do you pronounce that? Mick or Mike?
Mike.
That's what I thought. Okay. So Mike publication, Joseph Lemore, who's the title of the article is "Behold, the performative wokeness of Black History Month is upon us." And given recent history, I think people should be looking twice at their plans for Black History Month, and maybe it's better to basically the article was walk the walk, don't talk the talk, and if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it and you haven't done anything more than just that, maybe you want to rethink it.
Interesting. So that brings us to smiles. We need one. So my friend Michael sent me this morning, and this just makes me so happy. As you may or may not know, I'm a swing dancer. This is the thing I've missed the most during this past year. God, I can't believe it's a year. But John Batiste, who's the band leader on Colbert Show, he's spreading joy with Lindy Hoppers. And this is from a WBGO blog post. And what he did was, it's a video for his new single, which is called I Need You. And it's set in an art gallery. And at first he's looking at a picture of swing dancers. And then he imagines what would happen if some of the dancers in this archival photo of Lindy Hoppers in Harlem were suddenly to come to life. And so one jumps out of the picture and starts to dance, and he dances with them, and then other ones come out, and everybody's dancing in the art gallery. And I mean, I gotta say, he's not a Lindy Hopper, but he's dancing. And the song, he says the song is a vibe cleanse, and he said after 2020 this is like a warm hug. And he said, let's bring the vibes back. And it's just the happiest thing you're ever going to see.
That's fantastic. It sounds like it sounds kind of like Purple Rose of Cairo. The characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they do. It's just so much fun. And they're all dressed in period costume from the 30s, because that's when the Lindy Hop started.
Of course. Nice. So we're on to shiny new stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a, this is not a tool necessarily, it's a link. So you can apply to become a LinkedIn live broadcaster, which I just discovered and applied to today. So I have no idea whether I'm going to be accepted, but you can
I've
apply.
applied several times.
Okay, all right, so
Didn't
we
get
know
accepted.
we know it takes a while then. You can apply either for your for a personal profile or for a LinkedIn page. You need to use third-party tools to broadcast. So they list the tools: Social Live, Restream, Wirecast, Switcher Studio, Wowza, Cloud, StreamYard, Brand Live, Easy Live, Vimeo, LiveView. Paid streamers can have up to 3 admins for streaming privileges. And then I also read somewhere, I'm not sure where, but that you have a better chance of being accepted if you're posting frequent videos to your to your personal
That makes
profile
sense.
or page. Yeah. So yeah, we'll start doing that now that I've applied, and we'll see if I have more luck than you, Bill.
Yeah, let's see. So this is a podcast app called Air, AIRR, and it's an iPhone app, and it's a podcast player, and it lets you highlight and add a note and share moments from an episode. So when you hear something great, you can save it with one tap or even with just your voice, and then you can share that moment anywhere with a link to a video clip, kind of like the audiograms that I do, but done on your phone.
Very
Kind of
cool.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. We've got a new way to listen to us. We are on Amazon Music now, and so
Cool.
we were always available via Amazon, like smart speakers. But you had to be involved. You had to like go play Beyond Social Media show from Spotify or from TuneIn. So this is just directly. You can just ask your Echo directly to play Beyond Social Media show, and we're in the Amazon Music now.
That's great. I thought TuneIn did that all along. This is the only way.
Well, TuneIn did it, but you have to ask for it to play via TuneIn. So it's an
Oh,
extra
I
step.
see.
This is directly from the speaker.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. So this brings us to politics,
Does?
right? Yeah. So this is funny, actually. The Brits are trolling Trump. There's anti-Trump billboards popping up in Britain, and there's several cheeky brands that are doing this. And there's a petition. I find this so funny, to rename Glasgow's Prestwick Airport, which is where Trump lands when he comes to his Scottish golf course. They want to rename it Joe Biden International. So the petition's gotten enough signatures, more than 10,000, that actually it has to be dealt with. It's from an Ad Age article by Alexandra Jardine. So Rebel's Kitchen had, I can't say it in prime time here, buzz off, Trump will say. Billboards last week. One billboard carried the message for coffee. Rebel milks Trump's dairy. One version revealed on social media has some letters that just say "fuck off, Trump." Another billboard has a message, "Nothing trumps a nice glass of milk," and then gets reduced when you make an anagram out of it to "Trump's an ass." The latest stunt comes from Brewdog, which is a beer brand in Scotland, and they've already been provocative in the past, and one of their billboards calls the beer punk AF in the past. So they started a petition on the website change.org and asking to change the name of the airport to Joe Biden International, because they want to annoy Trump every time he flies in. So far, more than 9,000 people signed the petition. It was organized by an agency called Uncommon. And when it gets to 10,000 signatures, the Scottish government will be obliged to respond. I just thought that was funny.
This is from a Wired article by Andy Greenberg, who reports on a site called the Faces of the Riot. And it's a website that was put together by a college student in the DC area who wanted to remain anonymous for obvious reasons in the Wired article. But this kid used open source facial recognition software to identify and deduplicate faces from the frames of 827 videos in the Parler archive. So you can go to the site and there's just rows and rows and rows of faces to check and see if there's anybody that you recognize. It does warn the visitors to do not attempt your own investigation into anyone shown in this website. Report them to the FBI, and has a link. For obvious reasons, they're taking precautions with this site because people can be at a protest and not have stormed the Capitol, and that's not illegal, and that's not something that somebody should be held to account for. But or there could be reporters in the mix. So they're being pretty responsible about it, but it's pretty interesting too.
It's really interesting. And somebody was able to take down all of the Parler posts that were about the planning.
It's using that archive. It's
yeah,
not just
really,
the planning,
really.
all of Parler's content.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So I have a pro tip about the hashtags. So when you upload your video, you can enter the hashtag in the title or the description. So hashtags in the title are going to be hyperlinked. And if there are no hashtags in the title, the first 3 hashtags in your description show above the video title. So then what happens is people click on the hashtags that show in your video title, and that will take them to a hashtag search of all the videos that have that hashtag. So since so few people do this right now, it's very helpful to have your video come up high in the search results on YouTube.
Very good. Let's wrap this up.
And that's how you do it.
Awesome. We've got, this is weekly numbers, the Global State of Digital 2021. This is from Hootsuite, a Hootsuite report. And I'm just going to cite from this data, the world's most used social platforms. And this is the latest global active user figures in millions for the world's top social media platforms. So first, do you want to guess, BL? What's the most popular global platform?
YouTube?
Nope.
What?
It's Facebook. Facebook and then YouTube. YouTube second, and then WhatsApp, and then Facebook Messenger, and then Instagram. So among the top 5, you have a Google and Facebook. Facebook has 4 of the top 5 slots, and then YouTube is owned by Google. So then after Instagram, there's WeChat, there's TikTok, there's QQ, which is a Chinese site. There's Douyin, there's Sina Weibo, another Chinese site, Telegram, Snapchat, Kushu, I can't even pronounce this, Kayashu, Pinterest, Reddit, Twitter, and Quora. So there you go. We'll put the chart in the show notes so people can see it. But just thought, I haven't seen that data for a while, so I thought I'd cite it.
Very interesting. So that brings us to the end of episode 336 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you just find us by searching Beyond Social Media Show, or now you can just tell your smart speaker, play Beyond Social Media Show. Links to everything that we've discussed today will be at beyondsocialmediashow.com/336. And please do go there and sign up to our newsletter while you're there. I am here with the ever fabulous David Erickson, who is on Twitter as D Erickson, on Instagram as DE Erickson. He's on YouTube as eStrategy, and he blogs at eStrategyblog.com. I'm BL Achman, and I tweet at What's Next. My blog is What's Next Blog. My YouTube is What's Next Blog. My website's blachman.com. The show, beyondsocialmediashow.com. And on Twitter, we're at BS Media Show. And you can listen to the podcast and subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Google, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you're listening to podcasts, we'll be there. And next week, I will have an interview with Professor Michael Solomon, who is an absolute renowned expert on how people buy and how marketers can segment them in a new way, because the old ways just don't work anymore. So see you next week.
Thanks for
Oh, our
watching.
regular format will be back in 2 weeks.